Okay, I think I will get started here. We have a lot of information to go over tonight, so I don't want to keep you here any later than you need to be here. Thank you very much for tuning in to our college planning and panel presentation night for the class of 2026. We're very excited to start this process with this group. I think this class is 64 juniors total, so it's a small class, and I know they certainly have gotten to know each other very well over the past several years, and we've gotten to know them really well, and it's just such a nice group. So we're excited to start this process with them. And for parents, oops, sorry, me. My name's Riley Dunn. I'm one of the school counselors at Millis High School, if we haven't met yet. And if we haven't met and we haven't got to know each other yet, this process has a kind of a way of bringing us together, which is great. So we'll get to know each other over the next year or so as we support your sons and daughters through this process. Nicole Knobel is the other counselor. So my caseload is the first half of the alphabet, and Nicole's caseload is the second half of the alphabet. So that's kind of how we break it down. And we do lots of things together. But if kids have individual questions or they want to meet one-on-one with a counselor, they kind of meet with the counselor with who they fall in the alphabet. Mm-hmm. Just some quick numbers that we like to start with just to kind of set the tone. So last year's graduating class had 89%, so 90% of the students had the goal of going to pursuing post-secondary education. And there are nearly 6,000 universities in the United States. And of all those students who wanted to attend one of those universities, there were 0 that wanted to go to college, but they couldn't because they didn't get in. And I have been in Millis for 10 years now, and it's never happened. So we tell that to the kids because we want to reassure them that, yes, they are going to find some awesome schools that they would be really, really excited to attend. And they're going to, work with us to make a balanced and realistic list of schools that they want to apply to. And what's realistically going to happen is they're going to end up getting into multiple of those schools. And the hard part then will be deciding which of those awesome schools that they got into do they actually want to attend. So it's hard to, see that or envision that part of the process when they're at the beginning, but we will get them there. And again, we're all going to work together to support them and, get them somewhere where they're really excited to go for life after high school. So our agenda tonight, I'm going to go over kind of just the general timeline of when the kids are expected to do things. And I will also go over the resources that are available to them throughout this process, including SCORE, which is our awesome website that we use for researching schools and for sending materials to colleges. So I'll give an example of that, or I'll do a display of that so that you can all see the tools that are in SCORE that are available to students. And during my presentation, I'm going to be kind of intentionally vague because we're really going to dive into the details during our panel presentation. We have representatives here from Boston College, UMass Amherst, Suffolk University, College of Charleston, University of Alabama, and Mass Bay Community College tonight. And they're really going to dive into the details of this process. So if you don't mind kind of bearing with me while I go over the quick basics, and then that will really be, the best part of the presentation. So we'll get you to the details coming from the experts as we go. All right, so the juniors from now until, the end of the year, and we tell them, the first thing that we emphasize with them is that it is perfectly fine if they have spent 0 minutes thinking about college at this point. If they have no idea, they haven't spent any time or effort thinking about college or planning to go to college or figuring out what they want to do, that is perfectly fine. I think that a really normal feeling throughout this process is to feel like everybody else is further along than them. Everybody else knows what they're doing and they don't know. So that's all very normal to feel. And our expectation of them right now is that they know nothing and they haven't done anything. And that's perfectly fine. If they have done something, they are ahead of the game. But we do want to, kind of get them thinking about this. So this past week, we went into their classrooms to do lessons on this, and just kind of basically walk them through the basics of this process as a group, so that they know everything that's coming. And really their biggest tasks from now until the end of the year. The first one is to keep up their grades, to focus on their academics in school every day. If they do nothing else, if they can't handle, researching school until the summer, if they don't want to think about it until the summer, they will survive as long as they keep their grades up. That is the most important thing that they can do for their applications. Because, when they're applying to college, right, they're saying, I am ready for college. I'm going to do, if you accept me to your school, I'm going to do awesome things there and I'm going to be an excellent student. And their best evidence of their ability to do that is their grades in their high school classes. So, no matter where they're at this point, we want them to get those grades up and keep those grades up through the end of this year. And then again, in their senior year. Their other big task is to research. It's really a fun time, I think, and an exciting time. I know that it's easy to feel stressed, but when you think about it, it's pretty exciting and pretty incredible that they have this opportunity to launch their adult lives and pick a school that meets their needs. And so as they're researching, really having fun, picturing themselves on these different campuses and all the things that are available to them once they get there. And kind of recognizing how exciting that is and how fun that is. We really encourage them to have fun researching schools, and getting to know as much as they can about what's out there and what's available to them, and also getting to know themselves and what they want and what they don't want in a school. We are offering, really from now until the end of the year, Mrs. K and I have once a cycle flex block support. So we want our juniors to sign up for our flex block, and it's essentially a half an hour a cycle where we're available to them if they want to come and just hang and work on applications, or just kind of force themselves to do some research and look around online at what's available, or maybe they want to check something off their list, like signing up for the SATs. We want them to come to our flex blocks. We're there if they have any questions, but they're kind of welcome to just hang and work on some piece of their college process. So that's going to be available to them, once a cycle from now through the end of the year, and then again next year as well. The other big task is to sign up for the SAT or the ACT, and that's going to be offered in the spring. There's a March option, or a May option, or a June option. So we'll talk more about the SAT and the ACT kind of later on in the presentation. But that is something that we want them to do this fall. And of course, they're going to prepare and do their best on those tests. So we want them to take that in the spring this year, and then we would want them to take it a second time in the fall, either in August, September, or October. Getting to know schools and figuring out what you like and don't like. I think the best way to do that, if you can, is to make college visits. Vacations like February and April are great times to do that because college students are there on campus. We totally get it that for some kids, they can't get there until the summertime, and they have more free time in the summertime, which is also a great time to visit schools, except that students aren't there. So it's harder to get a sense of really what it feels like to be on campus when the students are there. So we encourage them to do them over the breaks, and they also have 3 excused absences that they can use to go check out schools. They have 3 this year and 3 next year, so they are totally welcome to take advantage of those as well. All right, and then over the summer, it's more research. It's more having fun with that research and just trying to figure out what do they like, what do they not like, what's out there, and trying to build those lists and then narrow down those lists. Another great way to learn about schools is to talk to students and parents who have been through the process. Mrs. K and I know all of the Millis students who have gone off to these schools, and they would all absolutely love to talk with a current junior or senior. about their school, and give them the ins and outs and the real inside scoop on the school. So we encourage the kids to let us know if they would like to talk to somebody who goes to one of these schools or recently went to one of these schools, and we can totally connect them. Summer's also a good time to start working on that essay. So the common application is one application that many colleges accept. I'd say most colleges accept. So pretty much every student who's going to be applying to a four-year school is going to fill out the Common App. Over the summer is a great time to get that done. It's not that hard. It's a little bit tedious. It's just a bunch of basic information about them, as a student, and classes they've taken and activities that they've done throughout high school. And then once they know where they're going to apply, they actually add those colleges to their Common App. They get to see then whether or not those schools have, an extra question or two or three that they would like answered before submitting. But then they can submit that one application to all of their schools if they're lucky, and all of their schools accept the Common App. So summer's a good time to get that done. And then in the fall, we will again meet with them in the classrooms to go over this process and just kind of make sure they're on task and on track, and remind them of sort of all the little steps. And hopefully by then they've done a lot of research, they've been able to build a great list and then narrow it down based on their preferences, and really kind of find the schools that they do really want to apply to. We encourage them to take the SATs or the ACTs a second time in the fall. Again, I think the options are August, October, and September for taking the SATs or the ACTs. And then early deadlines like early action and early decision, those deadlines are going to come up quick in the fall. Some of the earliest ones are October 15th, some are November 1st or November 15th. So that's really when the actual submitting of applications will start. And then if students choose not to apply until regular decision, then those deadlines are generally January or later. And we'll do another parent night in the fall, where again, we'll kind of go over the basics of the process. But the best part about that night is that we'll have someone there from the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority to present about the financial aid process, which is definitely a big piece of this. So please tune in again in the fall when we have our senior parent night, because that financial aid presentation is always excellent and very helpful for parents. And in the fall is when, of course, you'll fill out those financial aid applications. All right, so what's a good number? Students ask, how many schools should I be looking to apply to? The average for Millis students is about 6. We recommend 6 to 10. And we want that list to be balanced and realistic in two ways. We want it to be balanced and realistic in terms of the cost of the school, right? Because colleges range anywhere from Mass Bay, that's totally free now for students, to colleges that are, $80,000 or $90,000 a year. So they want to keep that in mind as they're building their lists, and have them, be balanced and realistic in terms of the price tag of the school and what your family can afford, but also in terms of their chances of getting in. So every school is going to have kind of a middle 50% accepted average of students based on SAT score and GPA. So students can use their own SAT score and GPA and compare themselves to those middle 50% averages. And if they find that their GPA and SAT scores are above the college's middle 50% average accepted GPA range and SAT range, then that would be a safety school or a likely school for them, because they can feel really confident that they're going to get in. And then if they fall right in that middle 50% for GPA and SAT, then that would be a realistic school or a target school for them. And then a reach school would be a school where maybe they fall slightly below the middle 50% average accepted SAT and GPA range. And so we want students to have at least 2 safety schools, at least 2 realistic schools, and then they can have as many reach schools as they want. We definitely encourage kids to apply to their reach schools. We, tell them over and over again that if we, say to them, oh, that's a reach school, or if it's labeled on SCORE as a reach school, that is not by any means us saying you've got no shot, keep dreaming. We have kids get into their reach schools all the time. In fact, it's an exciting time at Millis right now because so many of our seniors have been hearing back from schools in the recent weeks, and we've had a bunch of seniors this year get into their reach schools. It happens all the time. So we definitely encourage the kids to apply to reach schools. We just want them to make sure they also have 2 likelies and 2 realistics. And all of the schools that they are applying to should be first choice schools. Like I said, there are 6,000 colleges in the United States. So certainly they can find 6 to 10 schools that they have, great, that are balanced and realistic in terms of their chances of getting in, and that they'd be really, really excited to go to, and would, help them to launch their adult lives, to, start off their career goals, all that good stuff. So we don't want them to waste time or money or take up a spot at a school that they would never go to anyways. There's just no point in sending in an application if you don't want to go to the school. So we really want them to do the research, again, have fun doing the research, and build awesome lists and narrow them down to pick some great schools that they'd be excited to go to. The resources that are available to them throughout this process, Mrs. K and I are very available. We tell them all the time, you guys are walking past our office several times a day. There is no reason to stress or to worry or to, procrastinate or put things off or to wonder something and not pop in and ask. Like, we are right there, especially with this class of just, 64 students. We are totally here to help, and we really want to help. It's our favorite part of our job. So we encourage the kids to swing by, shoot us emails, check it, come to our flex blocks, like, just use us for help, because we love doing this stuff and we really want to support them through this process. And that goes for parents as well. Like, we would love to sit down all together to talk about your students' plans and just support you along the way. There's a Google Classroom setup that will have the slides from our presentations in it. It's got really everything that they need, links to all the websites that they need for this process, videos about certain parts of the process. So we definitely will refer them to that and encourage them to check out everything that's in there as well. SCORE is an awesome website that I'll do a demonstration of in a minute to show you all the things that are in there for them to take advantage of and to help them through this process. Again, we encourage you guys. Thank you for coming to this parent night. We'll have another one in the fall that will be helpful. Our college rep visits in the fall, we will have admissions reps from, I think this past year we had 70 different schools come to Millis High School during lunch, and they set up in our conference room, and they are there it's only one school at a time. And they are there to meet with our kids, to kind of tell them about our school, to answer, or their college, answer any questions that the kids have. And that's not only a really good opportunity for students to learn about a school, but it's also usually the person who is sitting in our conference room is the person who's going to be reading applications from Millis High School students when they apply to that college. So it can make a big difference. It can go a long way when a student takes the time to go, to the lunch visits. When the rep then goes to sit down to read their application, they'll remember, driving through the streets of Millis and coming to our awesome school and meeting the, Jimmy, the super nice senior who took the time to come down and listen to what they had to say and was very kind and asked good questions. So we encourage the kids to definitely attend those when they are here in the fall. We are going to post about those every day on Instagram. They'll also be listed on SCORE so that you know that they're coming. But definitely follow us on Instagram, particularly if your sons or daughters might need an extra nudge. If you want to stay on top of who's visiting each day, and then you can encourage them to attend those lunch meetings as well. And again, we'll do guidance seminars with them, kind of just lessons about this process again in the fall. And of course, there's lots of online resources. Every college has an awesome website that's got virtual tours and information about all the majors they offer and just everything you can think of. And really the offerings that they have online, the things that you can see and learn about a school are pretty impressive. Yeah, so then College Board's a great website for researching schools, but it's also what they'd use to sign up for the SATs, and the ACT website would be what they use to sign up for the ACTs. We don't have the SATs or the ACTs at Millis High School, so that is something that students need to sign up for on their own at those websites. And then they would go to an area school and take the SAT or the ACT on a Saturday. College fairs can also be a great way to learn about a bunch of colleges all in one place. And we're actually going to bring all of the juniors who want to come to a college fair at Medway High School on March 6th. So the cool thing about that college fair is that it's only for Medway students and Millis students. So it's, just great access for our kids to be able to learn about, 60 or 70 different colleges all in one place, and to actually walk up and meet and talk to the admissions representatives from those schools. And it's another opportunity too for us to show them how awesome and kind Millis kids are, because for those 45 minutes, they know that it's just Millis kids at the college fair. So it's just a great way for them to learn, and another good way for our kids to make connections and to help admissions reps put a face to a name. All right, so SCORE is a very useful tool for this process. We're actually going to be sending transcripts through SCORE, so there's going to be things that the kids have to do in the fall that will, facilitate that. Things like waiving their FERPA rights and giving us permission to send their transcripts to each of their colleges. And we're also going to ask them to put their activities into SCORE, which will help us write their letters of recommendation. But the things that are helpful to them, I would say probably the first thing to play around with for them would be, sorry, can you guys see SCORE on my screen right now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so here I am in SCORE, and I just hit this discover button. And let's see, if I hit my last search, I'm actually going to clear that so we can do it together. Oh my goodness, so look at that. There's 3,537 colleges that SCORE has information about. I'd like to narrow that list down a bit, so I'm going to plug in some of my preferences. Let's say I know that I want to major in business. I know I'm looking for a 4-year school. I'm somebody who wants to stay in New England. Well, you can plug in any state that you're interested in. So let's say I don't actually think I'm going to go to Pennsylvania or New York, but I've got family that lives in South Carolina. So I'm going to plug that in too, so I can see schools in South Carolina too. After going to Millis, I'm feeling like I might want a smaller school. And let's see, maybe a suburban or a town setting is kind of where I see myself more so than city or super rural. And there's other things you can plug in as well. So you could plug in, let's see, how selective you want the schools to be. The most selective are going to be the schools that are very competitive and hard to get into. And then so it goes down to all the way to open admission. You can choose test optional. So many colleges are test optional these days, which we'll again talk about a little bit later on during the panel. But if I know that my scores aren't a good reflection of who I am as a student, and I want to make sure that the schools that I'm applying to are test optional, so I don't have to submit those scores, then I would check that box. You could choose religious affiliation if you wanted to. You could add the athletics that you're looking for. You can plug in a whole bunch of different things. So now I've nicely narrowed my list down to just 42 colleges. And if you check out some schools and you feel like, you learn a bit about it and you want to add it to your list, you just go to the follow button, which is up here. But so, for example, St. Anselm College, I just clicked on. You could do virtual tours on SCORE, which is fun. And and many of them you can really go all over campus and see all the different buildings and what they're like, which is very cool. Okay.
Welcome.
So they can do, virtual tours. They can check out all the different majors that are offered at schools. They can go to admissions and see the average SAT score, average GPA, average ACT scores, the admission rate, and a really helpful tool. Let's see if I click on this scattergram feature. This is going to show me all of the students from Millis High School who've applied to this school in the past. They're plotted based on their GPA and their SAT score. And you can see if they're green circles, they were admitted to the school. And if they're a red triangle, then they were denied from the school. And this is me, the purple star. I'm plotted based on my GPA and SAT scores. So it can really help kids to get a sense. So for example, this school would be a pretty safe school for me, I'd say, because I'm really surrounded by green circles on the graph. Where another school where I found myself kind of surrounded by red triangles, I might think, okay, this might be a bit of a reach school for me. So it's really, really a helpful tool for them as they are researching schools. Okay, let's see, now I'm back on. Okay, am I back on the presentation? All right, awesome, thank you. All right. So yeah, just another example of this. This is a graph where it had even more data points to consider. And the blue dots are deferrals and the yellow dots are wait lists, I believe. So green are accepted and red are denials. Okay. So with that, I would love to introduce our panel tonight so we can really dive into some more of the details of this process. We have Ali Buzzio from Suffolk University, Philip Baird from UMass Amherst, Jeff Gallant from Boston College, Lisa Slavin from Massachusetts Bay Community College, Grace Vale from College of Charleston, and Jules Whedon here from the University of Alabama. So I'm going to throw questions out to the panel and have them kind of answer the questions from their school's perspective. And I'll direct the questions at each or at a specific person, but certainly if panelists, if you have anything that you want to add, or if the answer would be different, if you were answering for your school, feel free to jump in after the first person has presented. But I thought it'd be helpful to start with a brief kind of introduction of each of your schools in your institution, and maybe talk a little bit about the profile of a typical applicant to your school. And if you want, we can go in order of what's listed on the presentation here. So Ali, you would be first.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. So my name's Ali Buzzio. There is a typo. I don't want to be that person on the slide. Usually my counterpart in our office, Gina Versa, she is our Director of Admissions Information Systems. I'm just an assistant director, but that's okay. I just don't want you to think that I do something else. But either way, I am more than happy to talk about everything when it comes to the review process. I work at Suffolk University. We are a medium-sized private university in the middle of downtown Boston, very accessible to pretty much all of the major lines of the subway system here in downtown Boston. I believe we have over 60 different academic programs across a College of Arts and Science, a Sawyer Business School, and we also have a law school. Typically, a lot of people usually know us for our law school, so that is one of the most popular programs that we have. We have an undergraduate law track, but for students that maybe want to do something just a little bit different, but kind of still in the realm of government and politics, I would say definitely political science is probably right up there with another very popular program. Aside from anything in our business school, sports management is one of our newest programs that we just added. There is a partnership aspect with the Boston Celtics. So I think that has definitely generated a lot of interest for prospective and current students. And then we also see psychology pop up a lot. That is definitely another very, very popular program across all the different schools that we have. In terms of usually the typical profile of student, we are test optional, but for those students that do choose to submit, we usually see around a 1200 for the SAT and then a 26 or a 27 for the ACT. And then usually for an average GPA, we usually see around a 3.5, 3.6 weighted GPA on a 4.0 scale. I know usually sometimes every school is a little bit different, but we will consider GPAs on a 4.0 scale. Sound good?
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Baird, first-year admissions counselor with the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I'm a proud alumnus of UMass. I just graduated there 2 years ago, been working for them ever since. I was at Millis, the panel last year, so some of you may recognize me. Anyways, nice to see you guys again. But UMass is it's a large school, especially up in the Northeast. We're home to about 23,000 undergraduate students. There's about 7,000 additional graduate students on campus. It's out in Western Mass, if you're not familiar with it. It's about a 2-hour drive, maybe, give or take, whatever the pike is looking like on a random day and when you're trying to get out to Amherst, but not too bad of a trip out from Millis. We offer about 100 different majors. There's about 70 different minors now on campus, tons of certificates, different concentrations that you can choose. Our most popular majors are anything within our business school, our Eisenberg School of Management, nursing, computer science, engineering, psychology, biochemistry, architecture. We got a lot of majors. You can really do anything you want at UMass, except for marine biology. We're just not near the ocean, so we have nothing to do with anything marine life. So if you're interested in that, don't look at UMass because we just don't have a program for you. But we basically got everything else. So typical student that comes to UMass, or I guess typical applicant, we look at all different types of students, right? We get about 53,000 applications each year that we go through. We look for different things based on different majors. So we do read majors all independently, right? So to get in for as a business major is going to be different than to get in as an English major, or I have a geography degree from UMass, right? That's a very different process to get accepted than if you're going for engineering, right? So all the majors have different GPA requirements. They have different SAT scores that we look for. Which obviously, I can talk about during the session, but basically we just look for a well-rounded student, someone who's going to, be a strong student in the classroom, taking challenging classes in high school while still getting good grades, but then also being involved in the community. We want to see that you're a part of different clubs and, teams at Millis, or you have a part-time job, you do community service. Obviously, we're going to talk more about all this, but just so a good, well-rounded student is what we're looking for, and is what is going to make a good fit here at UMass. So happy to be here tonight with you guys. But I'll pass it on to Jeff to introduce himself.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Phil. Hi, excuse me, Jeff Gallant, Boston College. Riley, you said you've been at Millis 10 years. Time flies. Because I had the good fortune of working with Riley in the counseling office in reading apps from 2004 till a few years ago. But it's a great school, and BC really appreciates the relationship we have with Riley and Nicole in the school. And we celebrate some great students going on to BC through the years. Your admissions contact for our office now is a young woman by the name of Taylor Hart. She's awesome. Try to get to know her a little bit. Stonehill College grad, worked at Merrimack, so she's very knowledgeable about the field. I think she'll be a good advocate, for your students. But with BC, just what Allie said, Boston's a great place to go to school. You have the luxury of not having to travel that far, right, from Millis to experience something totally different than Millis and meet people from all over the country and world. And that's the great luxury we have here in Boston. I mean, there's some great reasons to go outside, and that might be the fit for you. But if you decide to stay here, you're not settling in any way. And for us, we're able to provide a traditional residential campus experience. So students like that, the T is right across the street. You see the Boston skyline from campus. So students, feel like they get a good combination that works for them. And then we have 4 undergraduate colleges. We have a College of Arts and Sciences, Morrissey, the Carroll School of Management, Lynch School of Education, Human Development, Cannell School of Nursing. Overall, 9,500 undergrads, about 5,500 graduate students. So for the students that pick us, that's a good fit. And then also we have a religious affiliation. We're Catholic. More specifically, we're founded by the Order of the Jesuits. They've founded 27 schools in the United States. Holy Cross is part of that network, Fordham, Fairfield. So it's a very successful tradition as educators. But the one thing I mentioned about that, one of the reasons I mentioned that is most Jesuit institutions, including Boston College, do not have Greek life. So as you go through your search, if you're interested in BC, because of the academic piece, you just want to make sure we have outlets for you, because joining clubs and organizations, that's the way we build community and people make friends at BC. And then as far as our typical applicant, I think, students, by the time they're applying, are really proud of their transcript when applying to BC. They feel like the transcript's a good reflection of the work they put in and their ability. And they took working with their counselors, they took an appropriate list of classes for them, and it allowed them to excel. And then we will be test optional for all of you. Students are starting to send testing more often. Right now, it's about 2/3 of the students we admitted last year had a test score, a third did not. So if test optional ends up being the right pathway for you, that's still, again, a possible pathway to Boston College, but we are starting to see more test scores. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Slavin. I'm from Mass Bay Community College, which is your local community college. We have many Millis High School alum roaming our hallways and our classroom and on our sports teams. We have a great partnership with Millis that I'm very proud of. So Mass Bay, we're one of the 29 Massachusetts public colleges and universities. We're one of the 15 community colleges here in the state. We have about just under 5,000 students at Mass Bay across our 3 different campuses. Our flagship campus is in Wellesley. We have a campus in Framingham, a brand new gorgeous campus in Framingham that houses most of our health science programs. And we also have a smaller campus in Ashland that houses our automotive technology program. So Mass Bay is a little different than my colleagues here. We are a 2-year school, so we offer associate's degrees, certificates, and the best way I like to describe it, it's like half of a bachelor's degree. So if you are interested in going on to one of these fine schools, you can start at Mass Bay, and then you can transfer to any of these schools. So our tagline is start here, go anywhere. So you absolutely can start here and go to UMass, start here, go to BC. I love that Ms. Dunn already put out there that we are free. I don't know if you've heard, but all the community colleges in Massachusetts now are free. Yes, we are really free. I have plenty of information sessions that I run pretty much at least once or twice a month, and I can go over all those details. But if you are a Massachusetts resident, and if you're in one of our eligible programs, which are a majority of all of them, tuition and fees would be covered, as long as you don't already have a bachelor's degree. And if I'm talking to mostly juniors, you shouldn't already have a bachelor's degree. So it's a great program, and you can save a lot of money, a lot of time. I'm really excited this year. We are partnering with Millis in a new way and Medway. Some of the students are actually taking a dual enrollment class with us for free through a great grant program through the state. They're taking an introduction to business class, so they're already earning some credits that they could hopefully transfer on and save some money and time when they start their college career. So happy to be here. Looking forward to any of the questions that you have this evening.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good, because I had the flu last week, so my voice is still kind of like, I don't really know if I have a voice. But hi, everyone. My name is Grace Vale. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at the College of Charleston. I am a proud alum of the CFC, as we call it. I graduated in 2018, which feels like it was a really long time ago, but it was not. I am originally from Long Island, New York, but I did go south for school. And although I live in Charleston, they sent me right back up north. So my territory is all of New England. So Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Maine. So I am the Millis admissions counselor. So I'm really happy to be here. Charleston is around 10,000 undergraduate students. We are located in Charleston, South Carolina. It's about a 2-hour flight away from Logan or Providence if you'd rather go to the smaller one. But incoming class is about 2,400 students, so about a medium-sized institution. We are a public college, and we do not admit based on major. So we take a holistic approach when we read applications, rigor of coursework, usually A's and B's in rigorous classes. So a 3.7 to a 4.2 is usually our range of where students who are admitted to Charleston and do well when they come to Charleston. So that's kind of our middle 50%. Some of our most popular programs are biology, psychology, because we have a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. There are just a lot of different directions that you can go with a liberal arts degree or humanities or STEM, any of those fun things. We actually do have marine biology, and we are known for it. So come on down to Cougar Town is what we say. But we are, everything that a medium-sized institution in a medium-sized city that is located 20 minutes from 3 different beaches, and it is always warm in Charleston. 11 Division I sports. We are big on school spirit. We are a walking city, a walking campus, and 50-50 in-state and out-of-state, and a lot of international students. So it is a really good sampling of people from all across the world. But yeah, happy to be here, y'all.
Thanks, Grace.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. So my name is Jules. I'm the representative for the University of Alabama. I, along with many of my colleagues here, graduated from the university that I represent. So I absolutely love the Crimson Tide, and I'm also from New England. So I grew up right here in Massachusetts. I'm in North Attleboro. So I totally understand it is very far away, but don't let that scare you. I absolutely loved my experience there, and it is such a pleasure to be back in New England recruiting students from where I grew up. So a little bit about UA in general. It's a very, very large university. We have about 40,000 total enrollment, with about 34,000 of those being undergraduate. So it is a very, again, large university. So if you are looking for that big, very stereotypical college experience, that Southern big school vibe, Alabama could be a great fit for you. As far as those academics run, we're typically looking for a student with at least a 3.0 GPA at this point, and we are currently test optional. Now, I will say, we are crossing our fingers that that will remain the same for y'all juniors right now. We are waiting, but hopefully we'll have that information set in stone by March 1st. That is kind of the goal for that. So just hang tight, and if you are interested in Alabama, definitely reach out to me. I'll also drop my contact information in the chat so y'all can have that. But we do, unlike BC, we are, of course, very big with Greek life, sports, all of the things. If you have heard about Alabama, you've probably heard about sports and Greek life, but don't let that fool you. That is also not all we are known for. We have great academics as well, along with a bunch of other ways to get involved. So if that's not your thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that Alabama wouldn't be a great fit for you. But that's a little bit about us, and roll tide.
Awesome. Thanks, Jules. All right. So we'll jump into the, kind of the process here. And Allie, I'll direct this first question at you. But again, if anybody has anything to add after Allie answers, feel free to jump on. Allie, with regard to the college process, where would you say the juniors' focus should be right now? What types of things should they look for as they begin their college search process?
Yeah. So kind of going off of, the process that you were talking about in the beginning, I feel like it wouldn't hurt right now to just start building a list, after tonight, and you hear from all of us and, any of our little presentations and what we say about our respective institutions kind of stick out to you, or maybe you have ideas of schools that, you just are kind of common household names that you think would maybe be a good fit for you. Write them down in a list somewhere. I feel like something that I didn't do when I was in high school was really build a list that made sense for me. Also, like we've kind of already touched on as well, visiting is going to be huge. I know that we have February vacation week coming up. So if you have the ability to go to these schools, especially if you're looking to stay within New England or in Massachusetts specifically, it could be really easy for you to, touch a bunch of schools just during that February vacation week. But yeah, build a big list, and then kind of as you move throughout the rest of this school year, throughout the summer, and as you move into senior year, start to whittle it down, and make sure that all of the choices on your list obviously make sense for you. If you know right now, I know, you could be 16, 17 years old, you might have an idea of what you want to do, but that could obviously change between now and the end of the year, now by the time you graduate. It changed for me several different times. And I'm currently doing something that I, never foresaw myself doing when I was originally applying to college and then in college myself. So, maybe you have a specific program that you're looking for that can kind of help narrow down your search, or maybe an area that you want to stick to. But I feel like definitely, just build your list now, and it's fine if it's 20 schools long. But as long as you get to that kind of sweet spot, like Riley and Nicole were talking about 6 to 10 schools, by the time senior year rolls around, I feel like you'd be in pretty good shape.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe I'll pick on Jeff a little bit to add some more tips about, what should students look for as they try and find their ideal school or a school that's going to be a great fit for them.
Sure. And I mean, go back to my point in my opening, being here, we have every type of school imaginable in New England. So I think you could visit certain types and then maybe have confidence to apply to similar types in other areas that you just can't travel to. But I think it is good just to kind of think a little bit about what your interests are, what your favorite subjects are right now, what you like doing outside the classroom to help guide your search, and that could be fun. I also think too, many of us now require you to register in advance. So if you're thinking about going to visit at popular times, you might want to think about coming up with a plan sooner rather than later so that spots don't fill up. And what we hear from parents over and over again is if you're in an area for maybe like vacation, or you're targeting a certain area and you're trying to fit in as many schools as possible in that area, or you're just trying to do that around here, 2 is the ideal number to visit in a day. Like you try to do 3, that's the tipping point, and you're gonna be tired and it probably won't be a good experience, and you might be selling that school and your experience short. And I also think if you do 2, you can spend a little bit more time at individual schools. We feature students on our panels, and they get asked often what they don't like about BC, which is a valid question. Like you definitely can ask it and make sure they're, ask it to make sure they have an answer. But like these are students volunteering to represent the, just the choir, right? Like if you spend a little extra time there, you probably could go just pick a random student that's sitting with you in the dining hall and ask them their opinions. But you have a little bit more flexibility, and I think you may get a lot out of the visit. You won't feel as rushed. You have a nice lunch in between visits. That's the way to, I think, get the most out of taking the time to go tour schools.
Great, thank you. All right, this next one's for Philip. What kind of advice do you have for kids on selecting a major? And if you can talk a little bit about, what's the impact on a student if he or she wants to apply undecided, and maybe some of the more competitive majors out there for admissions right now at your institution.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it is okay to be undecided. It's okay not to know what you want to do. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on high school students right now to know exactly what you want to do at age 16 and 17, which is foolish, to put it lightly. No one should expect you to know what you want to do right now. So if your parents or teachers or anyone's putting pressure on you, just ignore them, because you will figure it out. You have plenty of time, so don't listen to them in the nicest way possible. But to figure out what major you want to be, just try to think of like what classes you like in high school. Like what really, it doesn't always have to be the best class that, the class that you're best at, but it's the class that you enjoy doing the most, right? For me, when I was going to high school, I loved math. Or sorry, when I was going to college, in high school, I loved math. Since third grade, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I combined math with teaching. I was a math education major when I first entered school. I then did very poorly in a lot of my math classes, so I decided to switch my major to geography because I've always had a love for maps. I've always just like looking at maps. I was a map nerd growing up. I figured geography would be a cool major. Absolutely love doing it. I don't really use that degree like in my day-to-day life right now for work, but yeah. So you just want to like find something that like you enjoy doing, right? Again, totally fine to be undecided. At UMass, you can't actually come here as an undecided student. You do have to choose like a specific school or college at UMass that you want to be undecided in, right? So we have 10 different colleges within our university. There's the College of Natural Sciences, Humanities and Fine Arts, Social Behavioral Sciences, Engineering, Nursing, right? So let's say you really like math and science and those types of classes, but you don't know if you want to be like a physics major or a chemistry major or biology. You can enter in as an undecided within the College of Natural Sciences, right? That's how you would be accepted into UMass. Your application is read specifically for that undecided track. And then once you get to UMass, that's when you start taking all those different types of natural science classes during your first 2 years. And then we'll help you kind of like figure out what classes you like best, and then kind of the major that you want to pursue after that. So there definitely are options, if you are undecided. I will say gets a little trickier if you want to do anything within business or nursing. You have to apply directly into those programs. So if you want to do nursing or business, you do have to like know next fall if you want to be a nursing or business major. Any other major in the world you can switch to, that is totally fine. But again, the pretty competitive majors, nursing and business, do require a first year direct entry program. So yeah.
All right. And this next one is going to be for Grace. Grace, how would you suggest that students make the most of a college visit or a college fair?
Come and talk to me. We are such social people. We would not do this if we didn't like talking to people. I'm trying to think. I love College of Charleston. Most of us are alums of the school. We wouldn't be working for these schools if we didn't believe in either the education we got or the people that we experienced or just the culture, the fantastic people that we work with, whatever it may be. And we know a lot about a little bit. The questions that some of these students ask sometimes are way out of left field, but you'd be surprised how many answers we actually have. So use us as a wealth of information, whether it's over email, whether it's coming in person, whether it's just popping by at a college fair and scanning my Strive scan code or, writing out, the info card, anything like that. Demonstrated interest goes a long way for College of Charleston. It goes a long way for a lot of other schools, although it may be tracked a little bit differently, or it may not be tracked at all. That, again, is a question that you can ask, and something I think that can be really refreshing about admissions in general is that most admissions counselors will give you an honest answer. It may not always be the answer that you want, but it may be the answer that you need. And maybe if you're not getting really great grades in a certain, topic, and it is a direct admit program, then maybe they'll say, well, I think that you should look at X, Y, and Z instead. And we are meant to counsel you, right? I'm not here to convince you to go to College of Charleston. I'm here to tell you about what we have to offer and how I can maybe help you get to Charleston, or maybe figure out why you would do so much better at Bama. And I'll tell you, the colors are the same. You'll do great at either one, right? So I think it really is an opportunity for students more than people really can realize.
Great, thank you. And Jules, can you speak to maybe the best way for students to learn about your school if you can't make a visit to campus, which may be the case for many of our Millis kids who might be interested in Alabama but are not able to get down there to check it out?
Of course, yes. So like you were kind of mentioned earlier when you were talking about SCORE, a lot of universities will have virtual tours. University of Alabama is one of those schools. And just in time, at the end of this month, we will actually be releasing a brand new updated version of our virtual tour. So not only will you be able to go in like different classrooms and check out all of those kind of things, you will actually be able to hear from our capstone men and women who are our university's representatives, their students. They are incredible at what they do. They give all of our tours on campus. So that's a really great resource. And I know it was mentioned earlier, sometimes you might not be able to make that trip. And as much as I want you to be able to see Alabama's campus, sometimes going to a school like UMass, this is what I did personally. I went to local schools that are bigger and see how you feel there. You will know instantly pretty much if a big school is even the right fit. Because it's not worth, again, kind of like everyone was saying earlier too, you're going to know what's best for you when it comes down to things. And we are also not here to convince you to go to our college. We want to make sure that you're making the best choices. So when you are visiting these schools, doing those virtual visits, we want you to make sure that you're keeping that in mind.
Great. And this next one I will send to Jeff. You touched on a few of the things when you talked about kind of your typical applicant to your institution, but if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about what you see as the most important factors in determining whether or not to admit an applicant, and do you track things like demonstrated interest, or what are you looking at when you're deciding who you want to admit?
Sure. Yeah, maybe I'll start with that part of it. I think anytime you're asked for information, if you're comfortable, you should share the information with the college. It can't hurt because we're going to tailor content to your interests, and the better we know you, the more helpful that content will be. And I think it's good to get an email address that you use for the college process that multiple family members will have access to, because I think parents and loved ones and guardians and other people that are involved in the process, are going to, enjoy learning as well. We could probably get to this a little bit later, but while we don't practice expression of interest, we're not looking at how many times you visit a school or visit us or make contact with us. I mean, we could see all that, and we do practice the highest form of expression of interest, and that we have early decision as our binding early admission policy. So I think it does matter at every school to some degree. I think for us, it's an academic competition first and foremost, and that goes for every school. We're trying to give our faculty the best students we can to work with. I think that one thing I think we look for on the extracurricular side is, our kind of philosophy outside of the classroom is so community based. So we're looking for those activities that, students participated in community. Like there are a lot of activities that you can do that are great activities, but they're more just kind of individual focused. And so for us, and I think it's going to be a two-way street on this, like the student will feel that too. Like the student wants that kind of community vibe. And the fact that the vast majority of our seniors live on campus, like they want that kind of culture, and usually that we see that in high school in some form, right? Like while there are 10 spots on the common application, I think the average number of spots students fill out is 6, right? Like you don't have to take up all 10 spots, but if you do, you just try to highlight things that maybe you've been committed to the longest. If you've been committed across 3 or 4 years and that culminates in some sort of leadership, I think that's awesome. One of the only good things about the pandemic is it made students more comfortable talking about home responsibilities or things that they might do outside of school, like work. And just think about, don't give yourself some credit. If you have had a job for the last couple of years and like you've been given more responsibility at that job, like you open up the store, you close the store, or you're like a shift manager, like that's the same way as being a varsity captain of an athletic team, right? And then also talk about the things that take up your time, kind of being a son, a daughter, a family member as well at home.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. All right. At this point, I'm going to let Nicole take over with some questions of her own, or as the kids know her, Mrs. K.
Thanks, Riley. All right. I'll throw this one over to Allie. So There's often a lot of misunderstanding regarding the GPA. So could you clarify the variance in GPAs and how you interpret a GPA? Like, for example, do you look at Millis High School's reported GPA or do you recalculate things on your own?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like I was kind of mentioning before, every high school might have a different GPA scale that they kind of use to report their GPAs. I will look at the reported GPA to give me a sense of, whether you're on a 4.0 scale or a 100-point scale, or I feel like it might be Medway, not to throw them under the bus. I think they use like a 6.0 scale. I've seen it. It's somewhere in this region that I read for that I see 6.0, and I'm like, I am not familiar with this. I don't know who it is. But then I will also go into the school report and see if the school is kind of designating the same weights that we do for honors and AP courses. If you're adding the 0.5 for an honors or a whole point for AP dual enrollment or like a community college course. And if our grading scales match up that way, I won't recalculate, but then there are, a litany of times where I will often recalculate the GPA. Most times, sometimes too, if something looks a little bit off, I will recalculate just to be sure, because I always want to make sure that, I want to always give the student the benefit of the doubt. And if something looks a little bit off, I would rather make sure that I recalculate something and know that I, factored in all of the important classes and the grades that they got in those classes than, maybe overlooking something and, having that factor into the entire decision. Did I answer all the parts of that question? I feel like I rambled at one point.
No, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll throw this one over to Phil. So our students don't have a specific class rank at Millis High School. How is that interpreted in your office?
That's actually perfect, because even the high schools that do have a class rank, we ignore. So yeah, we don't look at class rank, even if you send it to us. So yeah, it does not help you or hurt you that you guys don't do a class rank. We'll just look at, again, the GPA, like what Allie said, we'll recalculate the GPA, giving out, additional points and weight to, the more difficult classes. And then we don't accept every single class. So we don't take certain electives, things like that. But yeah, class rank never plays a factor into our decision-making.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, switching gears over to testing. Maybe I'll give this one to Grace. Do you have any suggestions for student planning? Does it matter whether they take the SAT or the ACT? And maybe talk about like your test optional policy. What does it mean to be test optional? Does it really mean test optional? Can this benefit the student?
Yeah. So you guys are going to hear the phrase, it depends, a lot for the next year and a half of your life. Test optional may mean something different to everybody. At College of Charleston, actually rank and test optional are kind of the same thing for me. If it's there, I'm going to look at it. If it's not there, I can't see it. It doesn't have anything to do with me. So that's because we take a holistic approach, and we don't use test scores when we award merit scholarships or when we make those kinds of decisions. Now, other schools, you may need an SAT and, a 3.5 to even be considered for certain scholarships or certain tiers or things like that. So that's usually posted on a school's website, usually available, something that you should definitely look into. We are test score optional. That means that we do not expect it. Some schools are test expected. There are other things called, I think it's called test free, where they won't look at it if you do. There's a lot of verbiage. But we are a public state school. We are test optional forever. That's just something that we've decided since COVID. There's a lot of reasons for that. I work with a lot of students with learning differences, and I've seen that some students are not meant to take standardized tests. One of the funny things is that my year that I matriculated at College of Charleston was actually the last year that test scores were required. Mm-hmm. And so I got to, I worked as admissions, and I went and looked back at my SAT, and I was like, I had to submit that. Like, I wasn't particularly proud of it, right? But I think that nowadays when students get the choice, if they want to take the SAT and the ACT, look to their strengths. Some students do better on one than the other. I always say do both at least once. You would be surprised, right? But if it's not a representation of who they are as a student, then they do not have to do that. There are a lot of other metrics that we have nowadays in order to say, tell me more about this student and whether or not they'd be a good fit.
Thank you. All right. And Jeff, I'd like to hear from you. Do you have any insight on kind of when a student should or should not send a test score?
I think it's very school specific. I think, and that's where you all will help, working with your counselors to figure that out. I think one thing to kind of think about is that for some of us, many of us, like right after the pandemic, the only students submitting their scores were students that scored really, really strongly on the scores. So we kind of hid the middle 50% range of admitted students. It used to be a really helpful guidepost for families because it was just outrageous and it was on a really small sample. Now, I think the good thing is you're starting to see those ranges maybe come back a little bit because there's more scores being reported. So the scores are stabilizing that we're reporting. I think it comes down to personal choice in that, like, are you proud of that score? Like, do you feel like, as Grace was kind of talking about, like, that's representative of you? Like, that's something that is you feel like you lose sleep if you didn't submit it, right? Like, you want it part of your package. Like, then you should think about submitting it. Also, too, we do look at specific high schools and specific areas. So on your high school profile, which is a list of information that goes with every application, we'll likely at a lot of schools get the range for the class or the range for the class over a couple of years. And if you're maybe below what you're hearing reported for admitted students from a specific college, but you're significantly higher than the typical scores from your high school, like you might have one of the highest test scores in your graduating class, that might be a reason to submit a score that's lower than maybe what you're hearing from that school. It still makes sense for you to submit that score. Also, too, if you're first generation, if you're the first person in your family to go to college, the range kind of shifts a little bit. If you're bilingual or trilingual and English isn't your native language, that might be another reason to report a score that is reframed. But it's a tough question. And I think it's something that you can ask us, but we might throw it back on your counselors. Your counselors might throw it back on us. So like, I think in the end, it just comes down to you making the right decision that you feel good in your gut about with your loved ones.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah. And I think, like Riley said, SCORE can be a really helpful tool. And we are always available to work with the kids to kind of look at those scattergrams and the data in there too. All right. So Jules, do you have any suggestions for applicants communicating with you and your institution, especially because you guys are kind of farther away?
Yeah, so definitely reaching out to me directly is always really great. Again, I'm local, so I will be at your college fair. We definitely want you to reach out to me. And if I know someone, I can't remember who said it earlier, but I know a little bit about a lot. That's going to go for pretty much any admissions counselor that you talk to. So if I, for some reason, don't know the answer, I know the best people to get you to, especially with Alabama. We are very far from here, but we also are very large. So everyone's got their thing that they know a lot about. So if you want to know more about our nursing college, I can tell you a little bit about it, but I'm going to be able to get you in the best point of contact so you can have all of your nursing questions answered. Same goes for anything that you plan on majoring in. So just reaching out. I know in that link that I sent out, there's also like times that you can meet with me. I'll talk to you on the phone, things like that. I really want to be the #1 point of contact. I'm lucky to be in that position. So just reaching out to any of your admissions counselors, typically for any college, you're going to be able to find those online, and they are a great resource, at least to get your foot in the door.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So Allie, do you have any suggestions for a student filling out their application? Maybe any tips for writing that essay?
Yes, for sure. In terms of filling out your application, don't leave anything blank. Something that always pains me to see is when I see an activity section that's left blank. I feel like Jeff was talking about it earlier, but COVID kind of shifted kind of the outlook on what we as a collective kind of view as involvement outside of school, whether you're on a sports team or you work, or you help take care of a grandparent or your parents or a younger sibling. So please don't leave that blank. Because if I don't see it there, then I have to sometimes rely on the guidance counselors to fill in any blanks and mention any involvement that you have. So fill out everything. You're your own best advocate, so brag about yourself. That's what that section's there for, especially if there's something that you're really, really proud about. Use the space in the activity section. There's lots of spaces in the additional information section as well if you want to expand on something. Something that I see often too is students uploading resumes. Now, mind you, when I was in college and kind of moving towards graduation, I didn't really know how to put together a resume, let alone a cover letter. So it's okay if you don't have the perfect formula for that right now. I'm sure there's many templates on Google that you can look to for kind of expertise. But if you just want another, space to kind of write about more, a really significant experience that you've had in high school, please use that space. Again, just really, really brag about yourself. In terms of the essay, I know we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but there are a lot of different topics that you can write about. I feel like there's usually around maybe 6 to 10 different prompts that the College Board will give you. And it really could be about anything. I know there's one prompt that really is just kind of like a free-for-all where you can write about anything that you want the college to know about. I feel like with COVID being so near in our mind's eye in history, a lot of students will look towards that because, there was undoubtedly a lot of challenges and adversity that everybody went through in terms of school and life in general. But, it doesn't have to be about, something super challenging or really sad or traumatic. It can be about just honestly anything. If there's a certain class that you're taking, or, sometimes I see students write a lot about maybe a program that they're interested in or kind of how they've come to be really passionate about wanting to go into healthcare or business or anything like that. But don't think it's, you have to write, something terribly sad or anything like that. It really can be about anything. For me, working at Suffolk, I really just want to be able to get to know you a little bit more, if anything else, because if those different parts of the application didn't exist, my job would be a lot less fun because I would basically just be making a decision based on what I see on your transcript. So really just let us get to know you a little bit more through that essay.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really good advice. Lisa, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the MassBay application and sort of what you need on our end, because yours is a little bit more unique than the other ones.
Sure. Yeah. So ours, we're not on the Common App. We have our own application on our website. It's pretty simple, actually. We don't require SATs. We don't ask for, letters of recommendation. So hopefully that is helpful for your staff there. We have what's called open admission. So as long as you are going to be graduating high school, you're going to be admitted. So, Riley talked earlier, I think, about a financially safe school and an academically safe school. That's me. I'm it. So you should apply to MassBay and we'll send you an acceptance letter. It's so great to have that acceptance letter in your back pocket because it feels good and you might need it because, it's free. And so, if you do want to start local, some students realize, maybe they don't want to go far away. Or typically, you might get a financial aid package or you were hoping for a scholarship and things might fall through and, you realize at the last minute, I can't afford that school. And we get a lot of phone calls in July. That's when the bills come out from some schools and they say, oh gosh, things change. So having that Mass Bay acceptance is a nice thing to have. But the application process is really simple. And you can do it online. May 3rd, we have an open house. We do on-the-spot admissions. So you can come in that day and actually get your acceptance letter right there. The other thing, being in Massachusetts, we're part of a program that's called Mass Transfer. So any of the community colleges, if you come to Mass Bay and you earn your associate's degree, all those credits that you take will definitely transfer to any of the UMasses or the Massachusetts State Universities seamlessly. And I know for a fact, because I've been doing this for a really long time, many of the other private four-year schools will take our credits too. I know Suffolk takes them. I'm hoping, I know for a fact, BC takes a lot of them. Maybe my new friends, Grace and Jules, will shake their head and say they'll take our transfer credits, because English 101 typically is English 101 at all these schools. So you can take them here for, a fraction of the cost. And so that way you can save your money for when you are going to the second part of your bachelor's degree. Or a lot of you probably want to go on to programs that require a master's degree eventually, right? So save your money for that. But the application couldn't be easier. It's super easy. So if you want a fresh start, some of you might not have the grades to get into some of these schools right now. You can start at Mass Bay, get your GPA up and then transfer. A lot of students do that, which is really a great opportunity. So we'd love to have you apply whenever you want. We'll send you your acceptance letter. I think our turnaround, we have rolling admissions, by the way. So I don't have early decision. You can apply whenever you want for fall. We'll send you an acceptance letter probably in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jeff, so could you help clarify kind of like the differences between early decision, regular decision, kind of the variance and deadlines, and then maybe the profile of an applicant who would be a good fit for applying early decision?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. This has definitely become a more confusing part of the process, early admission. The two vocabulary words you want to keep straight are, is it action or is it decision? Early action is what's called non-binding. You get a few extra months to make the important choice. Usually the deadlines are around the same. Early decision, early action, sometime in October or November, with notification in December. With early action, you still can apply to more schools, and then you make your decision sometime in the spring. We had early action for a long period of time, and then it just made sense for us to move to early decision. So we're in like our 7th or 8th year of early decision. What's a nice thing about early decision for many of the schools that offer it is there's usually multiple rounds. So we have 2 rounds of early decision, which can be helpful to students. Maybe you're not willing to make that commitment in the fall, so you just apply to places non-binding early action and see how it all goes. Or some students apply early decision to a school that's not Boston College, and we hope it works out for them. But if it doesn't, you can regroup in December, and early decision 2 and the regular decision deadlines are usually about the same. So, of the schools you're applying to in January, maybe a school does emerge as the school you're willing to make that binding commitment to. Thanks, Nicole. I appreciate you asking about who's the appropriate candidate for early decision. The advantage is that admit rates tend to be higher for early decision versus regular decision. That may or may not be the case for early action schools. You need to just kind of figure that out. But I think it's a family, a household that feels good about the financial commitment, because the positive, what you're getting is you're going to know where you're going really early in your senior year, and you can just focus on enjoying and be done with this process. But what you're sacrificing is the ability to shop between all the different schools, right? If you wait and do early action and then do regular, or just do regular, the spring of your senior year should be an awesome time. You're a free agent. You can still, you should feel wanted. You get to go to all these great accepted student programs, and we sweat about trying to enroll you and the right numbers of you. So I think using the net price calculator that's federally mandated to be on every school's website to know how early decision schools do financial aid. Is it merit-based? Is it need-based? I'm not going to get that. You have a great program coming up where you can get into that a little bit more. But I think it's just that student that's, for early decision at least, it's clearly their first choice at the time. and the family feels good about the financial commitment that they're hearing from the schools. I think use the net price calculator and it'll give you a result. Like capture that, take a screenshot of that result so that then if you get a different package than you were expecting because of the calculator, either we can tell you where you might have made a misstep in your calculations, and it does happen, like we interpreted something incorrectly, and that could help us. But we need to know where you started. And it is important, I'll just say, because I'm the person that in the office that works with families looking to be released from their commitment. And that's just a tough spot. Like we can't force a student to go to the school if they can't make it work, even if they applied early decision. But like it's only like 10 days. Like you get the admit rate and then the deposit deadline is 10 days later. And especially for early decision one, like that's around the holidays. Like that's just not a great spot to be in. You get the incredible emotion and high of getting in, and then you have to have a difficult conversation. I think it's better to have the difficult conversations earlier in the process.
Definitely. Thank you. Let's throw this one at Phil. So what does it mean to be deferred, and what actions should a student take if they are deferred from your school?
Yeah. So, and I'm feel free, anyone else, to jump in on this, just because we don't do deferrals. So I know that being deferred is like, oh, you don't get an early action, we'll bump you to regular decision. So if someone else wants to jump in and kind of explain that. But for UMass, like you either choose, you apply early action or you apply regular decision. It's one, it's not both. And whichever one you apply for, you'll hear I was admitted, waitlisted, or denied. We don't re-review students for their applications. So yeah, anyone who does deferrals, you could probably answer that better than I can.
Does anyone want to jump in on that one?
I can.
Thank you.
So for us, a deferral will happen from one of the early rounds. So a student can be deferred from early decision. So we have early decision 1 and early decision 2. Fairly rare, because we like to say, oh, if you're making a decision, we're also making a decision. So really it's early action. You are deferred to regular notification. It means I would like to see a little bit more for you. I think of it as an opportunity. Some students don't take that opportunity. Some students are deferred and they say, that's okay. I wanted to go to BC anyway. That's great. BC's a great school. Have fun. But some students say, hold on a second. I need to go to College of Charleston, Grace. And then they're texting me, emailing me, and giving me a beautiful letter of continued interest that is essentially a love letter to College of Charleston and pulls on my heartstrings. And I say, come on down. It is an opportunity for students to say, hey, I really still am interested in Charleston. And sometimes it's as simple as sending mid-year grades, right? That's an opportunity, right? If a student maybe had an upward trajectory because they had maybe a tough freshman and sophomore year and their junior year is so strong, I might defer a student because I want to see first semester grades. And if they're getting A's in rigorous courses, that's awesome, because a student who will do well at Charleston is someone who does not get senioritis and who's going to continue to do well when they come. And so it is an opportunity. It's not a trick. It's not, and we do read all of the applications from early action. We don't just say, oh, we got so many applications, we'll just push them to the next round. We don't do that. I read every single one of them. But it is an opportunity for students to say, hey, I am interested in Charleston. And really, I'm not going to get into it, but the entire enrollment cycle can be very iffy for schools, and they may need to know more before they accept more students. And that is really what that is for colleges, right? We have some really great students. We would accept them right now if we didn't have a certain class size that we were trying to meet. Same thing with waitlist, right? But for right now, we are pushing them to the next round, that's a deferral. Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. So I will throw this one at Allie. So many families are concerned about financing their students' college education. Do you have any suggestions as to how the student can incorporate value into their search?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a wonderful free option here in front of us right now with Mass Bay. So, kind of going back to that first question that I answered, where you're making that list, and it can start pretty more robust than as you move through the end of your junior year and get into senior year. You kind of whittle it down. Other things to consider too is absolutely price. I don't think it's a secret that higher education can be very, very expensive. So looking at all of your options, like, do not underestimate community colleges. They are wonderful institutions to start at and kind of give you the footing that you might need or just might make the most sense for you. And financially, it could be the best option as well, obviously, because it's free. I don't know if we'll kind of get into the nuances of private versus public universities, but as a private institution, we have a higher sticker price. So that, is not going to be the final price that you pay, should you get accepted and you get your financial aid award. But we are able to offer both merit and need-based aid from the federal government. For state schools, the price is a little bit lower, but they're not usually able to give as much financial aid. So those are things to consider as well. Definitely, make that long list of schools if you want to kind of focus on price and, know realistically what your price range is and what your family is able to afford. Maybe your list of schools will just look like, X amount of schools that are within this price range. Also, to utilize your guidance counselors, utilize the institutions that you're looking at, their financial aid offices. Get a good understanding of what each individual school can offer, both on the merit-based side, if they do that, and then the need-based side as well. I know, like Riley and Nicole were saying, you guys have a program coming up about financial aid specifically. And again, you'll hear this a lot too. I think Grace said it. You're going to hear it depends a lot. Every school does financial aid a little bit differently than the next. Our sticker price and BC sticker price are probably very different. So it's good to kind of shop around and see what your options are and see, the entire financial aid picture. Don't discount a school because they might have a higher sticker price. You might not know what they're able to offer you. And, speaking as a former first gen student, the component of working with your guidance counselors obviously is so important because they're definitely going to be a great resource for you when you're looking for more local scholarships to apply to. So obviously, if schools can offer merit, that's great. You have the FAFSA there if it's applicable to you and you are able to fill it out. But there's also tons and tons of local scholarships, maybe in the Millis area or in the New England region, in the state of Massachusetts, or just through websites like Scholarship Owl or scholarships.com or Chegg. I feel like those were three that I saw in a pretty consistent rotation when I was applying to schools. So it's just worth it. There are scholarship applications that will take 2 seconds to fill out. They don't require an essay. So you might as well just throw your hat in the ring and see what happens. Don't discount, the scholarships that are $500. It all adds up at the end of the day. So definitely take every opportunity that you can.
If I could just jump in and just add some stuff to what Allie said. I think everything you said was awesome. Another thing to think of is if you're pursuing further education after college, right? I know a lot of people are thinking, maybe law school, med school, some type of grad school. That's also, you have to pay for that, right? So to think about that as well as to where you want to do your starting off point and get your undergrad from, if you are thinking of pursuing, another 3 years or 4 years or a 6-year program after you graduate college, because that's all you got to pay for that as well, right? So definitely just something to think of. And then also just wanted to kind of add something from what Lisa said. We get tons of students at UMass from the mass transfer program through the Massachusetts community colleges. I think it is a wonderful program. I think it's a really kind of underhyped program because it is such a cool opportunity. If you're the type of student that is okay with that, right? When I was looking at schools, I did not even consider community college because I was like, I need to get out of my parents' house. And I just could not stand another week at home, right? So I knew that I had to go to a 4-year school and just get out. But Tons of students do it. It's a great way to save money. It's a great way to kind of like get a cool, different experience as an 18-year-old student, kind of more on your own rather than, at a college. And then to transfer to one of the Mass state colleges. About a quarter of our students at UMass are transfer students. Right. So a lot of those students do come from the Mass transfer program. But then a lot of students are just like people like me, where you went to a school at first, you realized you didn't like it, and then you transferred and you meet all these other transfer students who are kind of also in the same boat. So just wanted to add those two things to what you guys had said earlier. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil. So Jules, how, if at all, does an early action application impact a financial aid award?
Yeah, so at Alabama, I will say it's a little bit different. We don't have a set like early action. We do have a priority deadline, which is more important for scholarship purposes. So if you are applying to Alabama, keep that in mind if you do want to get our like different competitive and merit-based scholarships. So if someone does have early action that does directly impact financial aid, please let me know and jump in kind of to fill in the blanks. But to my understanding, at most universities, financial aid wise doesn't make a huge impact on like the financial aid aspect of it. That will really have more of an impact on scholarships. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of your behalfs, but at least the case of Alabama, when you apply isn't necessarily going to impact your financial aid, but it will impact scholarship purposes. So definitely trying to fill out those applications sooner rather than later is going to be helpful for you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Jeff, so how is the process different for a recruited student athlete or maybe a special interest candidate, if it is different in any way?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have Division I athletics, and this is how it works in most schools. We have a good relationship with the athletics office. So usually you get your school, your high school will send you a transcript on your behalf to us the summer before your senior year. So we sort of can approve the admissibility at that point, knowing that, things can happen pretty early, the signing periods and things like that. But, we're just extra careful, with those students to make sure everything is, because there's a lot more people involved, right, in those kind of decisions. I would just say, though, just because you're recruited Division I and you're playing a Division I sport doesn't necessarily mean there's a scholarship offer that's going to come with it. But it would all across the board influence admissibility. And for us, we have 31 sports, which is a pretty good number of sports. Not all sports are created equal in terms of the amount of students that they can take and the types of students that they can take within our pool. And just know that if you're in that category, whether it's Division I, Division II, or Division III, like you're driving the bus, like, you're the family, like you're the recruit, like ask the questions you need to ask. And then if you're ever hearing something that you don't think sounds right, like you can always come to us. Like we're always happy to, assist you with that. And I think with special interest candidates too, the actual, how I would treat the review process for any student is the same. But then there's just a couple of extra layers, right, of people that are advocating for that student within the university, whether that's because of financial reasons, that there's a giving record, or somebody knows somebody. And that's why I would just leave no stone unturned, right? Like it's okay if you're applying to school, you don't know anybody. That's the most of the students are getting in. But I think if you do have a connection with somebody that helped you fall in love with the school more, like, certainly make sure that let them know that you're going through the process. And that could be like a faculty member or staff member or an alumnus of the school. Often students will ask, like, should I have an alumnus or an alumni write a letter? And I think sometimes it's just not worth the effort that the person goes into writing the letter, and it's not worth any stress you go through asking the person, because they're just giving us new information. They're not giving us any new information. Like it's all stuff we're getting from your counselors and teachers. But I think if you feel like they know you in a different way, or they have kind of a special connection to you and the university, then feel free to send it in.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you don't mind me kind of jumping in, just talking more on the athletic recruitment side, just because at Alabama, of course, it's very different. But if you are getting recruited for Alabama athletics, you probably will never talk to me. It is a very different world. I get a lot of questions, with the juniors, people who aren't really familiar with our programs, asking me, they're like, yeah, I want to play football at your school. Like, I'm hoping to go and play football. and I have to look at them and just say, if you haven't heard from us, I'm not going to completely knock you down right here, but you won't be the one talking to me. They'll be talking to you. Now, we do have walk-ons and things like that, but for the recruitment process, it will look a lot different. And that stands for a lot of the big SEC schools, big schools with giant programs. D1 can range greatly on where that kind of stands. So as much as, BC is a D1 school and they have great athletics, it's going to look a lot different at a big university like Alabama. So just keep that in mind if you are looking into going into that athletic side.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So Phil, what support does your school have in place for students as they transition to college? And maybe some supports for students who may need some extra support academically?
Yeah, tons of support. And honestly, there's any type of support, resource, help that you need once you're a student here. We provide that for everyone, right? Obviously, first thing that you're going to do, and this is the same, at all of our schools, is summer orientation, right? You're going to come to our universities for, a couple of days sometime in the summer. You're going to live in the dorms for a couple of days. You're going to meet all these other new people who are, starting school right there with you in the fall. Once you actually get to campus, you will be in a first year seminar. Most of the time, it's going to be everyone on your floor, right? Your entire dorm will just take a class together. It's a once a week class. Most of the time it's taught in your dorm, and it's really just a welcome to UMass, also welcome to your major type of seminar. More so just to kind of get you familiar with the campus, right? We're a big campus. Again, like I said, 23,000 students, obviously not as big as Bama, but, up in the Northeast, we're a pretty big school. It's a large campus. Just, it's easy to get lost on our campus once, you're first student here. So that's going to be the support, to get you accustomed to being a student here. Academically speaking, right? If you have any type of extra help in high school, whether it be, an IEP or on a 504 plan, you get extra time on, taking for a test, just get in contact with us, either with us or with our Office of Disability Services. And they're going to provide anything that you guys, have in high school. We will provide that for you as well, right? We're going to work with you to make sure that, we are supporting you as much as possible. If it's not anything like that, if you just need extra help, right? You have some questions for your professor. All of our professors, and this is kind of a thing at every college, all professors hold office hours, right? They're required to, where they just have to sit in their office. I don't know about different schools, but UMass, we don't allow our professors to do any work. They can't grade papers. They can't do research. Every time that I've gone into office hours, my professor's just playing a game on his phone or reading a book or something, right? So they're really just sitting there waiting for you to come to them with questions. They are extremely helpful. I will say, in my experience of the two different schools that I went to, you kind of got to be your biggest advocate. If you find yourself starting to struggle a little bit in class, speak up, right? Go to your professor, ask for help. That was a big change for me going from high school to college, was that I had to be my advocate, be the biggest advocate. In high school, I would, do poorly on a test, and my teacher would come to me and say, Phil, what happened there? Come stay after school. Let's talk about it. In college, when I bombed my first test, no one came to me, right? The professor just kind of continued on the next day in class. It's up to me, right? You are choosing to go to college. No one makes you go to college. You are choosing to go to school every single day and show up to class and do the work. So you also have to be, the one to show up to office hours, show up to the tutoring center, ask for that extra help. Once you ask for any type of help on campus, we will obviously be there to help you. But what we don't do is we don't hold your hand through college. We are there to support you through college, to make sure that you then are, a strong enough, I guess, self-supporting person to go into the real world. But again, we do really care about our students, and that's not just me saying that as a counselor. That's me saying that as a once student who took advantage of, the mental health resources, and took advantage of the tutoring center, and took advantage of all that extra help. I know that they actually do care, because they cared about me. right? So they're gonna care about any of our future students.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So Grace, what can our parents start doing right now to help prepare their children for college, maybe apart from the actual application process?
So I think parents can get involved by maybe starting to nudge their students in the thinking about college direction, not push, but nudge, just start to get an idea of it. In my experience, my mom just started taking me to colleges in places that she wanted to visit. Actually, she was like, "Oh, I want to go to Philadelphia. Let's go look at Drexel." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll look at college while I'm here," which does seem to be how, some people do tour colleges. You're driving through Charleston, let's stop by on campus and do a self-guided walking tour, those kinds of things. So just starting to get college on their children's radar is a good idea. Helping to list build with the least amount of bias possible is something that's easier said than done. That's kind of what college counselors are for, to kind of check it and be like, hold on now. But I think that just listening to, your children, where they want to go. Some people have an idea of their child going to the school that they went to, and they think that it's going to be great because they had a great experience there. And that may not be for your student. That may not be for your child. But one of my absolute favorite stories is a girl came for a tour at College of Charleston. We were very packed because it was spring break. So a lot of people wanted to tour at Charleston. And we got the girl on the tour. The mom was so grateful. The girl looked so miserable the whole time. And I was like, okay, well, I understand it's a lot. It's exhausting. She looked so miserable. And the mom was like, I can't wait for her to go to school here. We're just waiting on a couple of things. And the mom started talking to one of my colleagues, and then the girl was just, staring off into space. And I said, hey, can I ask you some questions? Like, what are you interested in majoring in? What are you looking for in a school? And she went, oh my gosh, I just want to go to a football school. And I was like, oh. I said, we don't have football, right? I said, we will never have football. And she goes, yeah, I know. But, here we are. And I said, do you know where you want to go to school? And she said, yeah, I want to go to App State. And I said, my friend went to App State. It's a great school. I said, I understand that there are a lot of pressures and everybody's telling you what they think you should do. And I said, but if that's something you really want to do, then you should think about a path getting there. I said, that may not be this fall, but maybe you want to start at a state school, because we are a state school for South Carolina, right? I said, maybe you want to start at a place like Charleston, or I don't know, Charleston Southern, and you want to transfer to App State. I said, that's something to think about. And that was a conversation that she just had never had with her mom. And I know that is, again, easier said than done, but it is a conversation I feel myself having a lot. And I think that just keeping the lines of communication open is really the best thing that you can do.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's really good advice. All right, to finish up here, Lisa, I know you had kind of talked a little bit about mass transfer. Phil, you kind of brought it up a little bit too. But could you kind of go over that and maybe the benefits of community college, maybe some newer programs you might want to speak about?
Sure. Community college, I think what's important is what's in its name is community. So we are local, and we're here, at many different times for students. So even if your student does go off to one of these great schools or another four-year school right away, we could also be here for when your student comes home for Christmas, for the holiday break. We have an intersession class. So if they want to take, another class, summertime, we have so many students taking classes to get ahead, or maybe they didn't do so great in their biology class and need to retake it. So we have a lot of students doing that. So we also have some students that don't do so great in general and are asked to leave their school because maybe they had too much fun at UMass. Sorry, I usually pick on UNH. I'll say UNH, not you. Yeah. So they're asked to leave for a semester and come to us. That's fine. We're here. So we're here for a lot of different reasons. We have some amazing programs, though. I do encourage you to come visit, because some people have an idea of what community college is, and you come and see these labs that we have, and they're just amazing. We have a biotech lab that has equipment that, some four-year schools don't have. We have a brand new health science center that has healthcare equipment that some local hospitals don't even have yet. And there's such, demands for these programs that we're now offering, right? So we have radiological technology. We also have nursing programs. We were able to add, 32 more seats in our nursing program. For those of us who have nursing programs, it's really hard to get into. So to think that you can get into a local nursing program, if you can't get into some of the 4 years, is a great opportunity. Cybersecurity is a wonderful new program that we have and that we're growing. Automotive technology. I don't know if you've tried to get an oil change recently, but the wait times are like so long. Our automotive technology students are getting jobs, even before they graduate. And while they're on campus and doing their co-ops, they're getting paid. So those students are, coming to school for free and getting paid. So they're making money while they're in school. Like, it's amazing. So you just have to think about things differently. So, again, the mass transfer thing I talked about, even if you're not part of the state school system, like I said, I know Suffolk has a great, they take all the credits that we have. A lot of the four-year schools will take the credits. It's just a different way to think about starting college. And I can't say enough about it. I've been there for 10 years. And like I said, we do have this new program this year that I'm so proud that we got to get off the ground with Millis and Medway. Some of the students are actually taking classes right now and earning credits even before they start college, which is great.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we do have quite a few students who do the Mass Bay option, so that's really helpful. All right. I think that's it for the questions for the panel. Riley, do we have a few minutes to do some Q&A?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if any parents want to throw questions into the Q&A, Nicole just opened that up. So you are totally welcome to throw some questions in there. While people are maybe typing their questions, Grace, I'll tell you that I am also an alum of the College of Charleston, and your y'alls and your Southern twang they're giving me nostalgia. I wish I could go back to my college days.
Well, we'll get you on a fly-in, and then you can come see what we've changed.
Yes, please let me know where I sign up. Yeah, I'll bring Nicole with me.
Yeah, of course. No, for sure. That's awesome.
Awesome. Looks like we may not have any questions. You guys just did such a good job. They have no questions. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Don't see anything in there.
I don't either. I don't even know where it would be if it did exist, but I don't see anything popping up with questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they should have it. So maybe we don't have any.
Okay.
I do see that there was a raised hand. Oh, now it's back.
Oh, Kathleen Streck is raising her hand.
There we go. All right, Kathy. Oh, I think you're muted. Your mic is muted.
Sorry. I have a question for Jeffrey. Would it be an advantage for a student applying to if your parents went to BC?
Yeah, we definitely give it additional consideration. With legacy, I think the key is to define it. Each school kind of defines it a different way. So for Boston College, the additional consideration extends to sons and daughters and children of parents who graduated from any level of BC, so undergrad, grad, or law.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
And then can I ask one more question to Grace about your marine biology program?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything in particular? I mean, we have sustainability studies. We have marine biology, which is distinctive from marine science. don't know exactly what that means, but I know that it involves a lot of animal husbandry. We have our own facilities right on the Cooper River in Charleston, so it's about 10 minutes from our downtown campus. But with that comes really small class sizes. I mean, our class sizes are small to begin with, but marine bio, I think there's maybe 10 students per class. So just our location is a great place for marine bio. We also have the South Carolina Aquarium. It's about 10 minutes down the street on Calhoun Street. And we have dozens of students there interning at any given time, usually specializing in a type of animal or just a type of, whether that's research-based or they know that they want to go train dolphins like my friend Kristen did, then maybe that's something that they want to do. But we also are big for environmental sciences, sustainability studies, meteorology. There's just a lot that kind of comes with our location.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see. Looks like we have another question. Christian, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate this. A lot of great information. Lisa, I have a question for you. Are children or students allowed to take courses through Mass Bay over summer, over holiday breaks, things like that, to take credits while they're
Yes.
going to another institution?
Yes, that's a great question. We actually see a lot of students from other institutions come to campus during those times. What I always tell the students is check with your home institution first. So let's say, if you're at BC or UMass and you want to take biology, you want to check in with your school's registrar's office or your academic advisor to make sure that our biology is what you need for your program of study. Because the last thing you want to do is take statistics with us, but you really needed college algebra, let's say.
Right.
So that's the only thing I would say. But yes, we see a lot of students, the summertime in particular, because we have 3 different summer sessions. It starts as early as May. So it's right when the students come out. I have a lot of students calling usually as early as like April around Easter. They're always saying, where's the schedule? Because they want to, if they want to get ahead. Or if they have to make up work. So yes, that's a really popular time. And there's a really intense intersession, which is literally like January 1st to January 15th. So if they're not working and they want to basically spend all day for 15 straight days in class, they could do that too.
Great. I have one more question. We were thinking about taking an extended vacation early fall of next year. Is attendance one of the factors considered when you're looking at applications?
So at least for UMass, something like a vacation like that wouldn't really impact it. If the student was out for like 2.5 months, obviously there's like some like reasons that they'd be out that long. So as long as like they explain I had some like health issues or whatever else was happening, then that's fine. But if it's just like a vacation, that's totally fine. We like want you to go have fun and like get out of school. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
Any other questions? I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, Jeff, Jules, Grace, Allie, who am I missing? Philip, thank you so much for doing this. We always, get good feedback from our students from this night because they love hearing it from you rather than just from us over and over again. So we really, really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to speak to Millis students and parents. And thank you to everybody who's still listening. And please, 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 Nicole and I are here to help with this process. Like I said, we really love this part of our job and we want to help and help each kid make their individual plan and keep them on track. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can do anything to help throughout this process.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.